Today, it's episode 50 of Rail Talk, major milestone. We'll do all of the things we usually do, break down the hot button topics in racing. We'll have a bunch of special pop-ins and guests, and Jon, I'm just so excited to have reached this milestone with you. Wouldn't rather do it with any other crew.
You as well, Joe, Bianca. This is Jonathan Green, general manager at DJ Stable. And Joe, I can't believe that it's number 50. I mean, we started the first show July 7th of 23, if you can believe it. It's been almost a year. And it's been 49 point something great shows. This one should be, even more exciting with all the things we have going on. But you think about just how much we've done and how many, glass ceilings we've broken through and how many people we've pissed off. I would say we've done our job.
Full 50. It's been a full 50.
Congratulations to Rail Talk on 50 episodes of compelling, thoughtful conversation that helps move our industry forward. I can't wait for the next 50.
Rail Talk is sponsored by the Green Group. Thank you so much to Len and the Green Group for supporting us from day one. This means the world to us. And as you know, if you've been listening to me talk about the Green Group for all this time, they're the number one accounting firm in the horse business. One reason, they know the business like no other CPA firm does. They've got over 200 horses, won over 2,500 races under DJ Stable, and they've got close to 1,000 clients in the horse business because they make the money and save them taxes. You can call them up at, what's that number, Michael?
732-634-5100. Green Group.
Or visit them at greenco.com. Special offer for listeners of Rail Talk. Len's offering a complimentary confidential half-hour consultation, guaranteeing you'll get value unequivocally guarantees will find you value and savings, but you don't have to take it from me. Take it from this satisfied customer fasig-tiptons on a site.
Mr. Green does my personal taxes, all of my husband, my syndicates. It's all about the girls' taxes. We do a lot at fasig-tipton with him, but also a lot personally with him. We had used several different accountants, and our syndicates had grown, and we had a lot of different partners, and they got pretty complicated. And it was stressful, and Mr. Green is so easy to work with, and he said, why aren't you using the Green Group? And so we were like, that's a good point. One thing that's been really helpful for us is Len really gets the horse industry because he owns and breeds and sells and races horses, so he knows all the ins and outs of the racing world, but also how that pertains to the taxes. So that was a big reason we wanted to start using the Green Group, because with all that equine experience, it really helped us to know when we could save money and all the tricks that we could be doing that we probably weren't doing before. So it was a no-brainer to switch to the Green Group.
Thank you, Anna, for that testimonial. And if you want to follow in Anna's footsteps and get helped out with your taxes, save money, call Len and the Green Group up at 732-634-5100, or go to the new and improved website, greenco.com, brand new, snazzy, looks great, easy to navigate. So hit them up, greenco.com or 732-634-5100. We start off with some legal news. I know that's too sexy for the audience to start off right off the bat with, but it's important. The Supreme Court has batted down the major challenge to HISA and its constitutionality. I'm reading from the PBS story here. PBS covering racing. You love to see it. Supreme Court on Monday rejected a challenge from Republican-controlled states to a horse racing safety law that has led to national medication and anti-doping rules. The judges left in place an appeals court ruling that upheld the law and rejected claims that Congress gave too much power to HISA, the private entity that administers the rules. So this is not the end. The Fifth Circuit still could rule against HISA, and then maybe it would go off the chain again. I'm not a legal scholar. Thankfully, Lisa Lazarus and several people on the HISA executive group are. But there's some quotes in here that I really want to read, just because it's Chuck Sheeler, who is one of the big wigs at HISA, the chairman of the board of directors, said it's long past time for opponents of HISA to drop their outstanding lawsuits. In light of this decision, continued litigation only serves to take time and valuable resources away from our core mission of improving the safety and integrity of thoroughbred racing. Now listen to what Eric Hamelbeck, the CEO of the HBPA, said. I've said all along that we're going to do our due diligence all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court to ensure that the rules governing horsemen are fair, clear, and constitutional. He also went on to say, we could still hear any day from the Fifth Circuit on whether HISA remains unconstitutional after the congressional tweak, and the oral argument last October went well for us. It went well for them. If you listen to the people in HISA who talk about their goals for the industry. It's about the safety and the integrity of the sport. When you listen to guys like Eric Hamelbeck talk, it's all about what's good for me. What's good for me and my brethren in the HBPA. It's not about the horses. And to me, that's where the split is yawning. Because, and I've seen this being on the HISA Next Gen group, and Jon, I'm sure you've seen it as well, being on the Horsemen's group. Like, nobody is in this just because they want a title or they want a fat salary or anything. You listen to these people talk, especially the young people that I'm on the board with. Everybody has the best interests of the horse and the industry at heart. And I'm just so tired of the arrow slinging. It's time to move on. It's time to get behind this because, again, I've said this before, you've had years and years and years to come up with a satisfactory alternative. You haven't done it. The Supreme Court, even the Republican-controlled Supreme Court, has now told you to go piss up a river. Let it go.
Yeah, I think that's a legal jargon, isn't go piss in the wind, go piss up the river.
I don't even know if that's a phrase, but I like that.
but Joe, I think the important takeaway from this, aside from what you said, which is personal interest over the betterment of the sport, okay, is that basically the Supreme Court came in and they said lower court's decision was fair. We're not going to hear this on appeal, and that we think that HISA now is constitutional. Now, that wasn't originally the ruling. Originally, the ruling in the Fifth Circuit, I believe, all these circuits just bog my head down. But anyway, in one of the circuits, they basically said, nope, you guys have too much power and it's not in balance. So they came back with a different set of changes. And now the Supreme Court is saying, okay, you are constitutional now. We are not going to hear any other appeals from the Sixth Circuit. Fifth Circuit, which represents New Orleans, and I had it all written down. I can't find my notes, guys. Darn it. Anyway, but basically, it's like the states that aren't following the HISA rules are still appealing. And also, Joe, it's like a couple of states and a standardbred organization, standardbred group, and a quarter horse group, which I don't know how they got kind of, cobbled into it, other than maybe they're paying some additional fees, and that's why they're being included. But be that as it may, I'm not a lawyer, but it looks to me like everything's in order. HISA is the law of the land now, and either you're going to follow by those rules or get out of the way because you're not going to be part of our sport anymore. And quite frankly, from a personal standpoint, either way is fine. But stop wasting everyone's time and money. And as a former card-carrying member of the HBPA, we've paid dues over the years and everything like that because they were representing horsemen. And I think in Eric Hamelbeck's view, he still is representing the 30,000 constituents that are members there. But it's not the way of the land anymore. It's not the rules. It's not what's going to be best for the industry. And we're going to talk a little bit later on about some of the safety and fatality figures that have come out also, and it's showing that things are working. Is it a pain in the ass? Yeah. Additional rules, additional procedures are a pain in the ass, but is it getting the results that we want as an industry? Well, for one thing, we haven't been shut down yet, so that's good. And another thing is that horses are safer right now. Is it coincidence? I don't know. It's only been a year and a half, so I guess technically it could be a coinky dink. I don't think it is. But the main thing is that there's adults in the room. We're trying to get things set. We're trying to move forward. And Joe, you use the piss up a river, comment. I remember Brereton Jones, who was then governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Whenever people would complain to him, he would say, if you think you could play better, put on a uniform and get on the field. Well, stop with all this nonsense of like trying to throw shit in the way of progress. And if you think that you have a better alternative, then speak now or forever hold your peace. Because basically, otherwise, the train's leaving the station and it's moving forward with the HISA rules.
The train has long left the station. That to me is the biggest thing here. It's like as you mentioned, it's been in effect for over a year and a half. Like the drug rules have not been in effect as long, but to try to turn this thing around now, it's just first of all, it's to me, it's immoral, considering the improved safety numbers that we are seeing. Small sample size or no, we are seeing progress. And it's implausible to be able to turn everything around send back all the old rules to the way they used to be and then come up with some other plan and then try to get that approved. Like, it's just a completely nonsensical, unserious attempt. And,
And Joe, my understanding is that the rules that the other group is trying to promote is like, let's go back to the old rules. Well, the old rules weren't working. And we were on the precipice of extinction based on the old rules. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I mean, it's listen, and there's already so many processes and so many moving parts that have been moving for a long time now. And I gotta say, the other thing that annoys me about like the Eric Camelbacks of the world is most of the horsemen that I've spoken to have done everything in their power to get on board and to get up to speed. So I think it's a misrepresentation and makes it look like 30,000 horsemen are railing against this and just refuse to get in line. Most people I've seen have thought that, okay, maybe the rollout was a little bumpy, but the rules are much better and much fairer and create a much more level playing field than we've had before. Even if it's an administrative pain in the ass along the way, this is something that's good for the sport, and we're going to do our best to comply. So I honestly tip my hat to most of the horsemen and the ones, at least that I've talked to, for really getting behind this thing. And that's the only way it's going to work.
Right.
That's the only way it is working, is to have that kind of unification and to have one or two guys and positions of power still shaking their fist and trying to get it struck down by the courts. Is just unbelievably annoying and disheartening. But thankfully, I think they're going to lose.
Yeah, the good news is that it looks like things are moving in the right direction again.
Yeah. Well, on that note, you mentioned earlier, McKinsey had a presentation at the Jockey Club's Welfare and Safety of the Racehorse Summit, which happened yesterday, June 25th in Lexington. And there were some striking numbers that came out. Obviously we have the fatality data that's been better in the first 3 months of the year, and it's been better year over year since the equine injury database was the advent of the equine injury database in 2009. But the thing that I like about these numbers, and this is something that I've seen on the HISA Next Gen group as well, is being able to stratify the data and being able to break it up and figure out cause and effect, because it's one of the major takeaways from this presentation that is that 50 trainers, which amounts to 0.7% of the trainer base in America. There's trainers with over 1,000 starts from 2018 to 2022. 50 trainers accounted for 13% of all North American fatalities in racing. So the more that we can identify the trainers and breeders too, 50 breeders, and this is breeders with over 500 starts from 2018 to 2022, 50 breeders, which is 0.1% of the breeder population, accounted for 8.4% of North American racing fatalities. So to me, this is the value of the data. It's not just the top line. What are we doing to reduce equine fatalities? How's that progress going? It's to dig deep into that data and say, who are the people who are most routinely putting horses at risk? And we've seen some of that data over the years. In California, we saw that Peter Miller and Bob Baffert's horses broke down at a rate much higher in general than other trainers. But yeah, if we can identify the trainers and the breeders who just aren't doing right by the horses based on the fatality data, we can start to increase the pressure and potentially increase the sanctions on those people. And I just one more point before I toss it to you, Jon. It's in that vein. I noticed on Saturday when I was at Aqueduct, Naira in the scratches was printing the reason for the scratch. Yes. Mm-hmm. So usually it's just, and this part is only recent implementation as well, as trainer or vet scratches. But that can be, there's sometimes a little give and take where that doesn't really tell you a whole lot. Now we're seeing horses unsound, horse has an illness, horse is injured. And that gets us closer to the Hong Kong Jockey Club type model, where the fans, the bettors, and the public knows everything about which horses are running, which horses aren't, and why. So this is that's to put a bow on it. This is the kind of progress that the opponents of HISA, I think, are trying to unravel.
Well, and it comes down to transparency, Joe. It comes down to that everyone is trying, not everybody, the majority of this sport is trying to say, we're no longer going to do this in darkness. We're no longer going to try to keep things at arm's length. Like the majority of the world, things are moving forward. People want transparency. They yearn for it there. And quite frankly, if they don't get it, they're going to other places where they can get it in other sports. So I think California and New York are the states that are actually giving that detailed reporting information with regard to scratches, and kudos to them for doing that, because if for no other reason, it just gives the betting public more confidence when horses are running, versus why they were scratched. Were they scratched because they quote unquote had a temperature, or as Joe likes to say, a temperature? Or was it real? Did the horse really have 101 temp and had to be medicated? To go back to what you were saying that I thought was really interesting, and again, this is now that I went on my transparency run, I'll tell you something that, some stats that weren't transparent, and that is in the McKinsey report, they talk about the 50 trainers, 0.7% of all licensed trainers that have started a horse in the past 3 years, represented or accounted for 13% of the fatalities in North America. They don't state the names. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of legal reasons as to why, even though they're just publishing facts. So, I don't see the harm in it. But, again, I'm not an attorney, so maybe I'm not fully understanding the rationale behind it. But there were 50 trainers that represented 13% of all fatalities. That seemed kind of high. And then, as you mentioned, Joe, there were 50 breeders, which represents 0.1% of all registered breeders of thoroughbreds, accounted for 8.4% of the fatalities. And again, no names were exchanged. It's a little harder to extrapolate that information as opposed to trainers, because you don't see it quite as often, and you don't really look for breeders when a horse is running. You're usually looking at owner, trainer, jockey, combinations. But I thought it was interesting that McKinsey uses a term, and I don't want to misquote it, but they said on the bloodstock side, 50 breeders demonstrated a 100% higher risk of fatalities. Those 50 quote unquote most dangerous breeders accounted for 8.4% of the fatalities from 2018 to 2022. I think, Joe, again, putting on my legal hat that I shouldn't, that you should sue the McKinsey report, because wasn't most dangerous breeder your high school nickname?
John, this was a very serious, studious conversation. You single-handedly derailed there.
I had to figure out how to put that together, and I was like, all right, I'll go on a 3-minute rant, and then when I see Joe's eyes glaze over, I'm going to hit him right between the eyes with the most dangerous breeder.
No kids
yet.
That I know of.
No kids yet. Happy 50th show, Joe.
Team Rail Talk, congratulations. 50 shows equals about the number of people that you haven't pissed off yet in the industry yet. And I do think those numbers are going in opposite directions, but congratulations. What a cool show. You guys had the idea, you had the vision, and you implemented it. And it really shows that you love what you do. You're passionate about the topics and about this industry, and you bring a new vision and a new energy and a new insight. And you've put issues and topics on the table that heretofore a lot of other people and entities have not brought to the table for all of us to listen and to discuss. So for that, I express my gratitude, and I just hope you keep going and you keep addressing the hard issues and the hard topics, and never be afraid to tick somebody off. And as a final thought, I'd love for you guys to get Eric Hamelback, the CEO of the National HPPA, on the show. I think that would be one for the ages, and I think it would really help, and it would mean a lot to those 30,000 members that Eric represents across the country. We want to hear from you, Eric. Come on, step up. State your piece. Take care and great job on 50 shows.
Hey Rail Talk team, it's Andrew from Arian Pedigrees. Wow, 50 episodes. That's more than the combined number of games won by the Jets and the Giants in the last 4 NFL seasons. Keep up the wonderful work, and we at Arian look forward to being involved in the next 50 episodes. Congratulations.
Okay, so now we got to eat shit about the Jets and the Giants in June. It's not even football season.
Well, we're both undefeated. We're undefeated right now. So
that's right. Off-season champs, a million years running. But just to really jump back into that, the McKinsey report really quickly, there's some interesting numbers beyond just the top-line data. So even at 1.32 fatalities per 1,000 starts, which is an improved number, and even if you get down to 1, the international standard is between 0.55 and 0.95 fatalities per 1,000 starts. So there's still a gap between us and Australia, Great Britain, Hong Kong, Japan, New Zealand, et cetera, et cetera. So there is still work to be done. Of the 51 North American tracks with more than 5,000 starts a year, 10 are already in line with the international standards. And the safest from 2020 to 2022 was Del Mar, not the Del Mar turf. The Del Mar main track was 0.19 per 1,000 starters.
Congratulations to them, because that's not easy.
Yeah.
That's not an easy.
Well, Santa Anita released data from their most recently completed meet, 99.97 safety record in terms of horses coming back to their barns safely. So that's another topic for another day. Like, if we lose California racing, there's obviously a lot that's going to be lost, but we're going to lose some of the tracks that are doing the best work on this thing that we all say that we want to make progress on. Last thing is, there were four major recommendations in terms of actions that should be taken to continually reduce those numbers. First is full-scale post-entry screening should be implemented at as many tracks as possible, including a panel report that takes into account past performances, vets list history, exam history, high-risk factors, and then identifying horses with high-risk characteristics to then give further scrutiny to. I've seen this work very well, and that's one of the things that California has really done well. Obviously, not every track has the resources potentially to do it, but it goes on to say that HISA and First Racing are developing software that can help to automate these risk reports, which could make things easier for tracks to be available on a licensed basis. So that's exciting. Second is the development and validation of the equine health and performance tracking technology, like the biometric sensors that you put in the like stride safe that you put in the saddle cloths. To have that as widely adapted as possible would be huge. Third is to continue to improve racetrack safety programs, which we've done a lot of good work on in this industry. And then the last one, or as part of that, was that North American tracks with cold winters should switch to synthetic, which you're already seeing Belmont Park 2 do. So that, I think, is a good step that we can take. And then the fourth recommendation, and this is the bare minimum, all tracks publish their fatality data. New York and California are the only ones currently that just by default publish their fatality data. That's the least we could possibly do. And the more data, the better, because we can, have specific sanctions or targets on trainers and breeders that aren't doing the right thing by the horses. And then we can help tracks that may have racetrack safety issues. This is the future, man. This is the way we get this number down to as close to a zero as possible. And every freaking story I read about it makes me feel more hopeful, and also makes me feel a little angry at the people that are trying to take us backwards, but mostly hopeful.
Hey, John, Joe, Patty, and all the rest who do the hard work behind the scenes. Warm congratulations on this milestone. 50 shows, very impressive. I'm delighted to have played a tiny role in perhaps the initial growth period, and look forward to hopefully joining you again sometime in the not too distant future. But you should enjoy this victory lap fully and take heart in the fact that you're really doing positive work. You're stimulating conversation not only between yourselves and the interesting guests who you attract, but more importantly, more broadly within the industry on a wide variety of important issues. And it can only be positive in the long run. I think it has been thus far, and I see no reason why it won't get even better in the future. So keep up the good work. Big round of applause, tip of the cap, and we'll see you again soon sometime.
Rail Talk is sponsored by TaylorMade. Appreciate TaylorMade and the Taylor family for supporting our vision from day one on this show. They're the best in the business at what they do. I would say that regardless of whether they were sponsoring the show, because John, they are so great at getting the information to their clients, marketing horses, but also getting the information to their clients so that they can enter and they can plan accordingly. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Joe, the amazing thing about it is, we enter these horses, these yearlings in particular, months in advance, before, well in advance of when the sale date is. And yet TaylorMade continues to get us updated information on what's going on with the horses. They send us monthly updates, photos, videos, vet reports. They even have some private shows going on their facilities to get the horses used to walking in a straight line, being led, and also to allow some of the agents to come on board and get previews and early looks at some of these horses. So that way it's not just like, boom, the first time you see the horses on the sales grounds. But one of the most important things to me, Joe, as a manager, because not only am I trying to manage these horses, but also the people that are involved with the horses, meaning my family. TaylorMade actually about an hour ago emailed me my hip numbers for the select yearling sale, which I think is I have not seen these anywhere. I haven't seen any other consignor that goes ahead and puts that information out. So now, what did I do with that information, Joe? I went out and I made my hotel reservations because now I know exactly what dates and times my horses are selling, and I got rooms at the hotels that I wanted to at Saratoga. Sounds like a small detail, but believe me, when you're dealing with a lot of people that want to be there to watch their horses sell well, through TaylorMade and in this case fasig-tipton, you need to have the accommodations. And so I'm very thankful to TaylorMade for giving us that little bits of information that maybe, get kind of left on somebody's desk at other consignments. TaylorMade immediately sent it out, helped me, and is making my job that much easier. So thank you again, TaylorMade.
Just one of many reasons that they're the top yearling consigner in the country. They have 38 yearlings consigned coming up for the fasig-tipton July sale. And as I said, they also have the connection with the flash sale. The horse being by Not This Time, the dam of the horse who won a Royal Ascot selling. So Not This Time continues to explode. We could do an entire segment just on him. But yeah, thank you, Jon, for that for that testimonial, because that's what you need. You need all the info possible. You need the best people behind your horses in order to make sure that they sell for the most they possibly can. TaylorMade is the place for all of it.
Hey, Jon and Joe, congratulations on episode 50 of Rail Talk. Thanks for making me some money. Vegas had the over-under at how many episodes you all would survive at 14, and I took the over. So I was cashing a long time ago, but it looks like you're well on your way now. God only knows how many episodes you have in you, probably thousands. Anyway, appreciate all the great work. You guys are doing an incredible job, and keep it rolling. Thanks.
So we're kind of in that little middle period between the Triple Crown and Saratoga where there's not a ton of big races, although we do have the Stephen Foster card coming up, I believe, at Churchill Downs. So that'll be a lot of good action. Home team report again. I know. I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but we had at West Point, we had 3 days in a row with stakes winners. The bar's never done that before, which is hard to do in general because typically stakes were only run on Saturday and Sunday. Right. So we had Vahva win the Grade 3 Chicago on Saturday. Sunday was great to see Carson's run, who was a Grade 1 winner last year. Didn't run that great in the Breeders' Cup. Didn't run that great in his first start of the year. Won the Tail of the Cat Stakes. Blew him away down by the Jersey Shore. And then Monday, I was there at Parks. We were 40, 50 deep on a super windy day at Parks. Took over the winner's circle. Once again, we were like 75% of the patrons on a Monday at Parks. And Don't Look Back at All, who's probably my favorite horse in the entire barn, now has 5 firsts and 5 seconds from 12 career starts. Another stakes win for her. Should be PA Breds in the Power by Far Stakes. You can see her up at Saratoga next. But the headliner, and not just for West Point, but for the weekend, was Vahva. And she is just so rock solid. That race did not set up for her on paper. It's a 5-horse field, but the horse inside of her, Society, as we all know, legitimate Grade 1 caliber horse, had the pace advantage. There was no other speed in the race. Now, granted, she was coming off of a long layoff, but Vahva kind of had to be taken out of her game a little bit. Sent early by IRAD to go after Society. They dueled into the stretch, and then Vahva just asserted her superiority. She's just nails, and she's just one of those horses, like, she doesn't look like a lot. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't look at her on the racetrack or in the barn and say, wow, that's a superstar Grade 1 winner, but she just shows up every time. Great training job, as always, by Cherie DeVoe. And another graded stakes win for, as of now, the probable Eclipse Award winner. Jon, what stood out to you from the weekend?
Well, I think the Vahva victory, I love alliteration. Vahva victory, definitely stood out. It was a Grade 3, so you get tap the brakes a little bit on that. But she has proven everything that needs to be proven as far as what kind of filly she is. She's just a really nice filly, one that anyone would be willing to want in their barn. And I think she's being managed correctly because you don't always have to go for the top money every single time. Sometimes it's important just to keep a horse in training. Focused on what your ultimate goal is, which obviously for her is to go out back to California to run in the Breeders' Cup. And we do it with like Webslinger and Papilio and other horses where you don't have to hit the top horses every single time. Because it does take something out of a horse. So you want to peak at the right time. You want to get him the experience. You want to, as you mentioned, it didn't shape up on paper the way that Vahva normally likes to win and race. So it showed an extra dimension for her, which is going to be paying off in spades down the road if things don't line up exactly perfect. So I thought that was a very important race. I was gravitating also towards the Ohio Derby. Again, another grade 3, but a $500,000 purse. Scratched down the 6 horses and Batten Down, the son of Tappet, went gate to wire in that one. Junior Alvarado, again, Joe, you and I talk about him, on and off in this show, that he is a really rock solid kind of jockey. He's not in the top 10. He's not one where if you had a horse in the Derby or in the Breeders' Cup, who is the top couple of jockeys you could think of. Junior Alvarado would not be one of those guys, but all he does is keep winning these races, and he does it by forcing the pace. He brought that horse right out of the gate, right from the outside, right over to the rail, and basically played catch me if you can. Again, Joe, with all the different things that we do and talk about, we forget sometimes Batten Down is a full brother to tailor-made stallion Tacitus. So again, the Judmont family continues to throw these great horses out there and great runners. And I think it's just adding value to another tailor-made stallion every time Batten Down wins a race. That was his second win in a row. He won that grade 3 impressively. And he's a horse that's on the ascend as they're entering the second half of the 3-year-old campaign.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was such a huge Close Hatches fan. She was one of my favorite fillies or mares like the past 20 years or so. So multi-millionaire, was champion older female in 2014. And she's been really good as a broodmare. As you mentioned, Tacitus, and I do think Tacitus is great value on that roster with his pedigree. And like people didn't love him because he never like stepped forward and became like a multiple grade 1 winner, but he ran big in a lot of races and made $3.6 million on the track. So to get a son of Tappet and Close Hatches, who was a multi-millionaire at that price on the tailor-made stallion roster, I think is a real bargain, and I think will prove to be one over time. And Close Hatches has a 2023 filly by Uncle Mo and a 2024 filly by Gunrunner. So I think that she's going to have a couple more runners before all is said and done. So that was really great to see. And then something to look forward to.
Talking about Sons of Tappet.
Exactly. Yeah, great transition. You want to host?
No, sir. I like sitting shotgun.
Okay.
After 50 shows, let's not, don't break it or don't fix it if it ain't broke, right?
Right, exactly. So yeah, it's a good transition to Thursday at Churchill Downs. Is it the second race, John?
Race 3 in your program. Post 12.
Right, so it'll be go off at around 6 o'clock, 5:53 to be exact on Thursday. Now, depending on when you're watching the show, it may have happened already. If so, no spoilers. Don't tell us what happened in the race. But we've got Sandman, the $1.2 million son of Tappet, who was bought in partnership with St. Elias Stable, DJ Stable, and West Point Thoroughbred. So a real family horse here is going to make his debut going 6 furlongs at Churchill Downs, Thursday's Twilight card. He's been really, really impressive so far in the breezes. You obviously don't know until they break from a gate. He obviously was not done any favors by the draw. He's in the 12 hole. Actually, West Point has another horse in that race.
In the 11 hole, I saw that.
That was not great luck at the pill pull. But regardless, this is just a starting point for Sandman anyway. I know Mark Cassio has been really high on him so far. And this is, John, we talked about this off air, and you can expound on it. But we talked about it would be great to see him become a star, obviously, for personal reasons. But it would also be great to see him become a star because he only galloped at the sale. Right. And the only way that we can kind of start to slow down horses at the 2-year-old sales in the way that I think a lot of people in and outside of the industry think is necessary is to have some of these horses have a sample size of horses from the gallop ups to actually go on and do big things on the racetrack. So I cannot wait to see what he becomes. And yeah, John, what's your feeling on that and maybe the potential ramifications if he becomes a nice one?
Well, Joe, if he becomes a nice one, obviously from a financial standpoint, it would look like a great investment because he's bred up the wazoo. He's a son of Tappet. He looks gorgeous and checks all the boxes. It's tough to get a horse to win first time out, number one. Secondly, it's tough to get a horse to win first time out from the 12 hole. I like the fact that it's 6 furlongs versus 5/8. So at least when he breaks, he's got a little bit more track in front of him to try to save ground and get to the rail. I don't think all 12 horses are going to run. That's just not the way it usually works, especially with babies. So he may be a little closer to the rail, by the time post time goes off. But there's two main stories here that I'd like to talk about. Number one is that how awesome would it be for Vinny Viola, who's one of the partners in the horse, to win this race and also have won the Stanley Cup? Yes, I said it in that order on purpose, Joe, because that's how important this race is. No, obviously his horse, his team won their first Stanley Cup after being up 3 games to 0, and then getting to the nail biter in Game 7 and pulling it out. Just tremendous victory. To win a championship in any sport is near next to impossible. So the fact that he was able to do it, and guide that team and put the right people in place is a tremendous tip of the cap, number one. But number two, and you mentioned this before, how awesome would it be for Sandman to win and turn out to be a good horse after galloping in March? And not only so much that he galloped, which was, in part of his process, the fact that the Lodenbachs, there was a death, and they decided to have a dispersal almost immediately as opposed to doing it over time. So the horse had no training really into it whatsoever. And yet Mark Cassidy, who's a very patient trainer, took his time with the horse. And Joe, the horse is still ready to run 90 days later. I mean, that to me, you look for signs in horses. And again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because it's a maiden race, but you look at horses and, I always like to see when a horse jumps up in leaps and bounds faster than he or she should have. Normally, if you have a horse that you buy that's galloping in March, that horse is running in October, September or October. So he's already doing things that he shouldn't be doing because he's just that athletic. But on top of it, I think it would show the industry that you don't have to go in 9-3 to be a good horse. You don't have to go in 20-4 to stamp yourself as a prospect. Here's a horse that just galloped, brought 7 figures, which that unto itself shows you, just how impressive he is. We had the partnership together in order to buy the horse, to pool our resources in order to do it. That's how much we all thought of him. So if he goes on and runs well, then subsequently has a good summer campaign, I think it really would be a shot in the arm for the industry to show that you don't have to be the fastest in March. You don't have to be the fastest in April for the Undertax show in order to be a successful horse down the road. And I know there's a lot of consigners that would sigh a breath of relief, in essence, of not having to, get these horses that much, ready that much sooner and faster than maybe they should be.
Yeah, no, totally. And it would be a slow transition. And obviously you would have to start having more well-bred horses do it, like Sandman. Like, that's one of the reasons that he still sold for so much, is that he was bred so well. If he was by some no-name stallion, he probably would have sold for $12,000 instead of $1.2 million. Obviously he looked terrific, but the pedigree had a big part to do with it. So you're going to have to see some better pedigrees start to gallop. But yes, I think it's an unbelievably interesting case study for whether or not it really does behoove the horses to breeze so fast, or if it's better to bring them along slowly. I can't wait for it. It'll be an unbelievable way. Sorry, John, I see you chopping at the bit. I'm just going to say it'd be an unbelievable way to start to celebrate our 50th show would be a win on Thursday with Sam.
No question about it. And Joe, I just want to go back to one thing that we were talking about. I think you hit the nail on the head. I should have mentioned this. And that is, I would love to see the study of horses that breeze quickly and how well they do percentage-wise compared to ones that breeze average or that gallop. I don't think there's enough information for the last division that we're talking about. But good horses can come from anywhere. Good horses have breezed 9-3, 9-4 on the racetrack and have gone on to do well. They've breezed fast. There have been horses that have breezed in 10-3 and have gone on to win graded stake races. And I'm hoping that there's going to be other horses that are going to gallop at sales that are going to show that they don't need to breeze early in order to show their athleticism and their racing prowess. But a good horse can come from anywhere, any sale, under any circumstances. I would like to see the numbers to prove it out, and have him be kind of the poster child for a galloper that can go on and do well in America. We know there's gallopers that do well in Europe, but it'd be nice to see one do well here as well.
Joe and Jon, happy 50th, boys. You don't look a day over 25. It's your guy, Dan Torchman from ABR, but was so blessed to be on your show a couple months back. Still waiting for that invite, checking the email, phone calls every day, nothing. Just want to remind you, as I'm standing here, my train is canceled. Again, Penn Station, 100 of my closest friends. It's not that bad where you are. It's a good little setup, so appreciate it. We appreciate you. Here's to the next 50 and the next 100. We love you.
Real Talk is sponsored by fasig-tipton. First of all, thank you to everybody at fasig-tipton for supporting us from day one. It means more than you know. Bidding is now open for the Cloudy Dancer Flash Sale, which is a one-horse online auction at fasig-tipton Digital. If you don't know, Cloudy Dancer is the dam of Shareholder who won Royal Ascot's Norfolk Stakes, which is a Group 2 for 2-year-olds, very impressively last Thursday. You can bid on Cloudy Dancer now through this Friday, June 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Shareholders by not this time, so a little tailor-made tie-in there as well. He's 2 for 2, and he's probably going to go to the Pre-Morning next, which is a Group 1 in France. This is a really unique opportunity, and that's what's so great about Fasig and about their digital platform. Like, you don't have to plan these things months in advance. You know, whether you're the seller or the buyer, you had no idea that a horse like this was going to become available. Now you can just jump on the website, put in a bid before Friday at 2 Eastern. I'm sure that the horse is going to sell well, but it's an opportunity you would not have had otherwise. And the digital sales just continue to keep growing in terms of importance, in terms of the quality of the horses that you can find. The next one is going to be July 18th through the 23rd. You can enter horses from now until July 10th for that sale at fasig-tipton-digital.com. And then, of course, we've got the July Selected Horses of Racing Age sale coming up July 8th, which we follow the next day by the July Yearling sale. Both are in Lexington, and then we'll see you upstate at Saratoga for the Select Yearling sale August 5th and 6th. I know John and DJ Stable have a couple of horses in there. But in the meantime, tons of action. And that flash digital sale, that's the wave of the future, I think. Not just the digital platforms, but those one-horse sales. You don't have to have a whole production team behind it. You just throw the horse up on the website. You put all the info that fasig-tipton does, and then watch the bids roll in. It's going to be exciting to see what she sells for, and it's going to be exciting to see those digital sales continue to grow.
So do I just start whenever? No, I think I know what I'm going to say. All right. Oh my gosh, you guys, the 50th episode of Rail Talk. You're just chugging along out there like a freight train. Get it? Train, Rail Talk. Okay, it's a bad pun. But yeah, you guys bring the fun, the insight, the facial follicles, and the show success. That is just a testament to the hard work and dedication that Patty Wolf puts in. It's been an honor to have been invited on the show, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Looking forward to that next invitation. In the meantime, I will be watching. Keep chewing it up, and I'll check you later. Do I get paid for this?
Who is it?
Hello?
Oh, I know that guy. Oh, wow. This is my favorite person in the world. The best man coming up at my wedding. I'm so beyond stoked to bring him to the Rail Talk studio. My pops, Russell, Bianca. Hey, Russ.
Hey, guys. Hey, Joe, John. Nice to see you.
This is this is worlds colliding here because Russ is one of our number one supporters in addition to being my dad. Comments on all the episodes, likes all the episodes, shares them. We so greatly appreciate you. But you and I have talked enough over the years. I'll leave it to John to get to know my favorite guy in the world.
Wow. That's thank you. I appreciate having question one. So Russ, can I call you Russ? Or I have to call you Mr. Bianca?
I call him Russ. So you can definitely call him Russ.
All right. So when Joe came out, we're going to go way back. When Joe came out of the womb and the doctor held him, was Joe like, "Wow, I'm so stoked to be here"? Wow. Were those his first words? Because those seem to be his go-to.
He didn't look stoked, but I think he was.
And was he always into racing? What was your earliest memory of him being a race tracker?
Well, he's always into sports, but Joe, maybe you can refresh my memory. We'd often go to Belmont and Aqueduct, and we ever went to Saratoga. But how old were you when we went to Belmont and Aqueduct?
It was high school days. I started betting when I was 16. Snuck into the OTBs. But yeah, we used to have a great tradition where we'd go to Belmont for the Met Mile every Memorial Day.
Yeah, I loved it. I would say because I was the adult, I took him, but he actually took me to Belmont, took me to Aqueduct, and it was fun. He taught me how to bet. I didn't really win. But it was great. And I thought Belmont was really cool, just the look of it and sitting in the stands. And yeah, the mile, right? Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And Russ,
when he was a teenager, I would say, yeah, that was the answer.
very, very good, very good. And Russ, you're a Renaissance man. I mean, you're into the horses, you're into sports, you're into martial arts, and you're also like, you had a video that went viral, right? Even before we even knew what viral videos meant.
Oh, yeah. There's one on my YouTube channel that's, for some reason, it's big in Russia and all those Kazakhstans and places like that. All those stands. But it's martial arts. It's an instruction, and it's based on how you apply some of the moves that you'll see. And I had a partner, and I'd say grab me, and I'd slap with the head and whatever. And so that one was pretty big. But I did want to mention that it was kind of interesting. Joe was always into sports, but I've worked at the American Kennel Club for the last 27 years. So that's the sport of purebred dogs, and Joe ended up as thoroughbred horses. So we have similar interests in our jobs, which is kind of cool, I think.
Now, can you bet on those shows, like when the AKC at Madison Square Garden? No?
With FanDuel, you could.
I'm pretty sure you could. I think Westminster is bettable.
Yeah.
The other thing that you didn't mention is you can see the guitars in the background. You have an extensive collection of guitars, and that's not just because you're a fan of music. It's because you're a musician yourself. Tell the audience a little bit about how your music career started and when.
Right. So I became a songwriter, and the impetus to that, and I think most songwriters, is when you get your heart broken, right? So my heart was broken, and I songs were pouring out of me. It was up to like 3 a.m. writing songs about, and how dark the world was. And I said, let's have a band. So I got together a band. We auditioned people, and we got a band. And in 78, we played clubs like CBGB's, Max's Kansas City, the other end, the Ritz, Kenny's Castaways, all around the village in New York City. It was fun. And so we were in one ad. I posted this online. It was the CBGB's ad. This was before the police were known. Our name was in bigger type than the police. Well, that ended quickly. Our band was the Maroons. We liked the Ramones, so we just kind of turned it around. Yeah, it was fun. And we did that for about 4 or 5 years. We signed up with a bad manager, and I'm not going to get into the sad story after.
But people still reach out to you every now and then. Like, I love these songs. Like, whatever happened to this band? You're a whatever happened to guy.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Like, I have young friends like Joey's age on Facebook, and they find out that I played at CBGB's, and they tell me, "Oh, you're a legend. You don't know it. You're a legend." I'm not a legend.
Yes,
but I love the time we did it, and I've probably said this to Joe. I'm glad we stopped after about 6 years, because if we had gotten a record deal and done a gig, I'd be more deaf than I am now.
That's right.
And
the band is the Maroons, by the way. If you want to Google it, the Maroons is the name of the band.
Maroons, and also that's actually the color of our silks, as an homage to you guys. I don't know if you realize that, but our worlds, kind of intertwine even back then. So, Russ, I got to ask you a serious question, because obviously you're one of the top fans that we've had. You've watched every single show that we've ever put out there. Is there a show or a memory or a moment where you shook your head, or you laughed hysterically, or you just thought, you know what, these guys, or at least my son knows what he's doing?
Well, I'm always so impressed at how quickly you can rattle off stats from any horse that anybody mentions, not just a deep dive into their stats. I'm always impressed by that. But I would say, since I've watched all the shows, I don't remember how it was in the first couple of episodes, but I've seen it get more engaging. And, I'm not a horse player or a horse owner, but I find it really engaging. The chemistry between you guys, the graphics people, the production, just the sound, the editing is excellent. But, some of this stuff is Greek to me when I hear it, but it's really done in it. Like the recent shows with Lisa Lazarus. It's fascinating stuff. Like, I just think, and she's great. I think she's great. But what I like about the interviews you guys do, and maybe I've said this in some of the comments, is it really feels like a conversation more than an interview. Like Q, it doesn't sound like Q A. It sounds great, and I just think you're doing great work. I'm so proud of Joe for what he's done. And I just want to mention this, like Joey's always been into stats and charts. When he was about 6 years old, maybe younger, maybe 4 years old, we in the subway, if you're familiar with the New York subways, they have these big maps posted. So we got him one, we ordered one, we put it on the floor, and he played on it with this little trains and did all the train lines, and he would be able to tell somebody who came over, no, you have to take the D train because it goes up. Like he would memorize the subway. I'm not kidding. We'd go on the subway, he'd tell us what the next 5 stops were. So I knew he had a photographic memory, and right here in this show, I see it.
Yep. No. And that's actually how he named the horse Change at Jamaica.
Yep. Still have that passion for the trains and the subway system.
Yep.
Well, Russ, thank you so much for coming on. Also, you're retiring at the end of the year, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Early congrats on that. Any idea what you're going to do with all your time besides bug the hell out of man?
I'm going to teach more karate classes. I teach 2 a week now. I'll probably teach more of those. I'll do, like maybe have a home recording studio so I don't have to play with other people.
You sound more and more like us. Yeah, I just want to avoid people whenever possible.
John barely leaves his basement, so you guys have that in common.
I promised Nancy, Joe's mom, that we'd take a vacation.
Nice,
just one.
Nice. No, that's great. And Russ, I do want to be, I hope the sincerity comes through when I say this to you, but I wouldn't be doing this show without your son. There's no way that I think I can't speak for you, Joe, but I know there's no way that I would want to do this show with anybody else. And it all was, from the previous shows, kind of chemistry, and we, respect each other and enjoy each other's company, and we don't take things too seriously, as far as the barbs and everything like that. And I can tell you that there are times where I'm sitting here and I can't think of a name or I can't think of a race, and it just rolls right off Joe's, brain and out his mouth. And it just astonishes me that he's able to come up with some of these facts and races. And I'm learning vocabulary from your son even. I learned what meritocracy was. I never knew what that was before. And apparently he says he's also taught me nepotism, which again, I didn't know was a thing. But there's no way that I would ever want to do this without him. And he's just become one of my best friends, and you should be very proud of him professionally and personally.
Just one more thing, Joe. Love you too, Jon. Jon, thank you for visiting our borough. I saw the video of you in Brooklyn, and by the way, it's a great mix of information. There's humor, and you guys have integrity too. I like.
Thank you,
my man. Still see you Saturday, I hope.
See you Saturday, Joe.
All right, love you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So we could not have a 50th episode celebration without our special correspondent and from the road. This is how dedicated he is. Skip Anderson, great to see you, bud.
Hey guys, I'm back.
It's been a long time coming. The fans have been asking, where are you?
I am currently on a road trip with my wife and daughter headed to Jackson, Mississippi from Fargo, North Dakota. And I'm coming to you live from the Smile Dentist office in St. Louis, Missouri.
Well, it looks pretty good. Like maybe we should write like a review of the parking lot of the Smile Dentist
Absolutely,
office.
We should.
How long of a drive is that total?
Way too long, 20 hours.
Ooh. Yeah.
You must
love enough now that she doesn't bug you. Is she a good passenger?
She's a great passenger with a little bit of tablet time and some markers and paper. We make it happen. She doesn't pick up the racing form yet, but she'll get used to it.
She'll get there.
So long.
Yep. You just need to give her 2 options. You need to give her a racing form or Benadryl. Those are the only 2 options that you need to have for a successful road trip.
I think also
that sounds like a Friday night for me.
I was going to say successful handicappers try to do that too.
As I'm getting older, that sounds like a fun Friday night. All right, Skip's got a game for us. We haven't played Tackle or Trade in a while. So we've got a new game just specifically for this 50th episode. Skip, why don't you tell us how it's going to work?
Absolutely. We're going to play, since we like to name horses on this show with our namesakes, Change at Jamaica, Burner Account, Mean to Me, the whole family of horses. Producer Julia came up with this idea about a game called Name Mum. And what we are going to do is we're going to splash up a picture, and Jon and Joe will get 5 to 10 seconds to come up with a name for that horse. And yours truly, Skip, will pick the winner for each horse. And the first host with 3 points, you get a point per winning name, is the winner of the Name 'em contest.
Joe, now just we should handicap this a little bit because I've been doing this for a long time, naming horses, and I feel like I have a little bit of an advantage over you. Although that being said, now Skip, he is younger and smarter and wittier than I am.
Yeah.
So does that kind of like balance it all out?
Absolutely. And with this one, we're not playing the Jockey Club rules. So number of characters, content, all bets are off. Everything goes. So that's what's going to make this even more fun.
Okay.
So,
well, and the other thing, John, is you've been naming horses for so long. I feel like you've exhausted all the names that you could possibly come up with.
I may have.
I got horse names coming out the wazoo, pent up.
That's a great name. Coming out the wazoo.
That could work. That could work.
I reserve the right to use that one. Let's do it.
Okay, go ahead, Skip.
So, all right, we're going to splash a picture up to you guys, and you guys get to look at this horse, and then you have to name it, and we'll give you 10 seconds. Joe, you say yours, and then Jon, you can say yours. We'll rotate back and forth, and then I'll pick a winner between you two. So, ready? Let's splash up a photo.
Damn, that's a long face. I'll say Jay Leno for the long.
Jay Leno.
I'm
gonna name because it looks a little sad. I'm gonna name that one Patty's dinner date.
Oh. I'm going to go with Joe on this one. So 1 point, Joe.
For no reason.
Come
Wow.
on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I put in a Stewart's inquiry?
Not in this game.
Oh man. All right.
There's how I'm getting invited to dinner with Patty.
Yeah. Wow, that was harsh, Jon. Come on.
Surprised I didn't win. Okay.
All right.
And mind you, Skip and Joe, this is the first time we're seeing these photos.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, exactly.
Yes.
Just off the top of the
These
dome.
are
Surprise.
pictures that Jon and Joe have not seen at all. All right, let's put up the next one. Jon, you can go first.
I want to name. I'm going to name that one Blue Steel.
Oh,
that's good.
Mr. Zoolander.
There we go.
Yes.
All right.
I think this horse bears a striking resemblance to a certain celebrity, so I'm going to go down that road again. I'm going to say Haley Steinfeld leaving the Viper Room.
Oh gosh, we're gonna give that one to Joe too, coming out of the gate with the big lead.
Man.
It's actually pretty funny.
She just looks like Haley Steinfeld. Come on.
All right.
Who's it?
Next one.
This is a beautiful horse.
Yeah.
I'm coming. It's hard for me to come up with a snarky name for this one. That's usually my specialty.
Yep.
Reminds me a little bit of Justify, even though he didn't have a blaze. So I'm just going to go with Completely Unjustified.
Okay. All right. Jon?
That's a good one. That's a good one. My first thought was that it's Secretariat-esque with a bird dropping. So I don't know how we're going to be able to put that together, but I'm gonna come up with Big Red Turd.
All right. We're gonna give.
If I don't win this one, Skip, then you're not on the show anymore because there's no way.
Wow. Oh, geez. Well, I'm pretty sure that is Secretariat.
That's what I thought.
So this one might be a push. Maybe we'll call that one a tie, leaning toward.
I identified that as Secretariat, for God's sake.
Absolutely. So we'll give that one to Jon.
Good.
We'll give that one
All
to
right,
Jon.
thank you.
So it's
Thank
2-1. Joe versus Jon. All right. What do we got next?
Now that we know it's Secretariat. Wait, go back to that one. Now that we know Secretariat, we should really name that like something about Jason Kelsey. Right. But anyway, all right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Too late, John. Too late.
Go ahead. I already won.
Already won. Oh
my God,
man, this horse looks like a rock star.
But I think I go first, right?
Yep, John goes first.
Yeah, you can go first, but I don't have to keep it under 18 letters. Okay, never mind. I'm going to call that one hashtag Bill Finley's first laugh.
I can't beat that. The only what I was going to say is, that's something that we yell to each other in New York City. If you want to get somebody's attention, it looks like that's what he's doing, and he's going, "You're." Any of my New Yorkers will get that, but that's hard to beat Dante.
All right, so we're at a tie here. It's the
this is
rubber.
This is like the
rubber
Stanley Cup
match right here.
This is like the Stanley Cup right here.
All right, here we go.
Back.
We got one more.
That's a cutie pie.
All right.
I
think Joe's up first on this one.
Okay. This is one of my horse names that I've always wanted, and it's a Simpsons reference. So Krusty and Bette Midler had a horse together. So I'm going to name this horse Credler. That's a Credler to me.
I appreciate the creativity. Probably would be within the guidelines too. Characters, everything. Yeah.
Mark my words. I will name a horse Credler before I leave this mortal coil.
Absolutely.
Oh, goodness.
All right, John, your turn to bring it home.
Wow, that's a tough one to beat, Joe. I mean, that's actually really good. I'm gonna name that one Who Farted.
That definitely is the farted look.
Yeah, that is. That's the guilty as charged photo.
Exactly. Since there was a horse named Hoof-hearted. Remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
I'm just going to go since we throw the rules out, the Jockey Club rules out the window. We're just going to say with Who Farted.
Fair enough.
All right.
Well,
now it's turned over to judges. The judges being skipped.
Today's creativity and the winner for the inaugural Name 'em contest is going to be Joe today.
Yay!
Is our winner.
Joe.
And
let's go.
Also, producer Julia did put in there that if anyone did use Patty's name, Skip's name, Julia's name, anybody was actually going to lose a point in the game, to be honest with you. That was the unwritten rule. So when John drops that one in there on the first horse, we knew he was crushed from the get-go.
Oh my God.
It's just Patty's always on the brain for John.
I was really hoping to be able to name one Bee in My Bonnet, but none of them struck me as a Bee in My Bonnet kind of horse.
Understand.
That's another good one to reserve.
That is a good one to reserve.
I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. All right. So thank you, Skip. That was awesome.
Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for making time on your family road trip. Say hi and give love to Kelly and Wynn for us.
Will do.
Yeah, enjoy your trip.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Congratulations on 50 episodes of Rail Talk. It's been fantastic, and all that you do for the industry is top notch. So thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Skip. We couldn't do this without you. We love you. Safe travels.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
True.
All right, buddy.
Hey, Joe and Jon. I heard some news today. I'd like to share some thoughts now, if I may. I heard you reached episode 50, and damn, that does sound pretty nifty. Rail talk, that's pretty cool. Thanks to Patty, Julia, Nathan, and Brad for making this podcast really rad. Thanks to fasig-tipton, Green Group, and TaylorMade for helping us ensure our bills are paid. Most of all, thank you, Joe and Jon. Although you're sometimes wrong, both your beards are strong. Hey, it's your resident composer. Congrats on 50 episodes, boys. Cheers.
Oh my God. Thank you, Michael, so much for the best tune yet for our show. That just shows you the growth of Rail Talk, that now we've gone from a skeleton crew to having our own team member score the show. I mean, what can you say beyond that and the growth of the show? We appreciate everybody who's contributed along the way. Thank you to my dad, Russell Bianca. Thank you to Skip Anderson. This was like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I loved it so much. Thank you as always to our producer, Patty Wolf, our associate producers, Nathan Wilkinson, Julia Agresta, and Brad Gerke. Thank you to you, the viewers and the listeners, for putting up with our nonsense and tuning in every week in droves. We wouldn't be here without you. And of course, we wouldn't be here either without the sponsors, all the sponsors, but especially fasig-tipton, Green Group, and TaylorMade, who have been with us since day one. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for making this possible, and thanks for everybody who contributed to this along the way. See ya in 2 weeks. We're off next week, back in 2 weeks for episode 51 of Rail Talk.